The Elsa Kirk Show with Clay Novak. Serving up trending news and conservative views. Brought to you by the Elsa Kirk Collection. At Refuge Medical. And now, it's time for the show.
Well, hello everyone. Hello, Clay. How are you today?
I'm doing good. We've got what do we settle on? 6, I think.
I think it's 6. Yeah, I think
Wow.
really 1, 2, 0, 6. Yeah. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got 6. All good ones. Really, really interesting topics. Definitely enjoyed. Enjoyed. I don't know if enjoyed's the right word, but was very interested in doing all of my research and finding all of the little nuggets to talk about.
Yeah, it all kind of wraps together. But you know us. We pride ourselves on finding those transitions between topics. I think that's the most adventurous part of the show.
It is. It's like, how are we going to switch into one? And like 99% of the time, it seems like it just flows right in.
It does pretty well. But we'll get started. We got 6. We'll get started right after this. Hey folks, Clay Novak here, author of the novel Keep Moving, Keep Shooting. So what I've got here is the Boo Boo 2.0 basic first aid kit. This is the one that you throw in your glove box, throw in the trunk of your car, keep in the house. It's got your Band-Aids, antiseptic wipes, those kinds of things for scrapes and cuts. And some more significant, there is a tourniquet in here. But Boo Boo 2.0, this is the kit that you need all the time. Again, refugemedical.com. You can find it there. Definitely a useful kit. Use the discount code KMKS at checkout. Get yourself 10% off. Refuge Medical, not only buy their equipment, but get their training. Refuge Medical offers training as well. Keep moving, keep shooting.
Spring is knocking. Ready to refresh your vibe? The Elsa Kirk collection has everything from page-turning reads to eye-catching fashion, guaranteed to add a little sunshine to your season. Calling all statement makers, Elsa's pieces are designed to turn heads and bring confidence to your closet. But that's not all. Love a good book? Elsa's got your next favorite read waiting just for you. Don't miss Elsa's Amazon affiliate store, filled with hand-picked beauty treasures, home must-haves, and daily essentials. It's like a personal shopping spree made easy. Make this spring your season. Shop the Elsa Kirk collection today and let the fun begin.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, I feel like we should just like go in order of appearance here or in order of arrival. Let's talk about this guy right here, huh?
Yeah. So this was, it's baby steps, right? We've all got to remember baby steps. President Trump really, this started with Secretary of State a couple of weeks ago, and then we had the Zelensky in the Oval Office, and that didn't go well. And then, and then Zelensky came back and he said, okay, maybe. And then they agreed to conditions for a 30-day ceasefire. And then President Trump got on the phone with Putin. And they had, it sounds like somewhere I've heard 90 minutes, I've heard 2 hours, but they were on the phone for quite a long time. And, what came out of it were the first steps of conditions for ceasefire, which was no targeting of Ukrainian infrastructure by Russia. I think that was, I think it's probably 2 ways, but that's what Putin agreed to, was like, listen, I'll lay off of infrastructure. Now, did immediately violate that within a few hours. I would venture to guess that communications don't move as rapidly through the Russian military system as we think they do. So while he hung up the phone with President Trump, it probably took way too long to, stop the operations that were already planned and kind of underway. So, but that is the baby step. So Putin agreed to, at least now, energy infrastructure attacks for 30 days, but this is ongoing discussion.
Yeah. So do you think that is, innocent, so to speak, that the timing of the agreement or the partial ceasefire there, and then do you think that was legitimately chain of communication error, or do you think that was a little malicious on his part?
I think it's a coin flip, truthfully. I think either one is likely, and I think you'd have a problem disproving either one of them, or proving either one of them. So, I think, is Putin smart enough to get one last shot in before it starts? Sure he is. Could it be incompetence or lack of capability at their level to get down to the units that are executing stuff? Yeah, that's possible. So, unless somebody's got some really, really inside baseball into Russian military communications, they'd be hard pressed to prove it one way or the other. But I think it's a coin flip.
Yeah, and of course, the media, the mainstream media is going to run with, yeah, you see,
Yeah.
Trump trusts him too much, and this is what happens, and so from that perspective, it's definitely, it's a bummer. I mean, I hate to say that so lightly when we're talking about actions of war, but yeah, I hate giving them any little bit of anything, so that's unfortunate.
Well, what people forget is that besides loss of life and loss of equipment, which is, obviously of a great concern, Russia has no reason to stop doing what they're doing.
Right.
None. They have no reason. Ukraine's never going to beat them without NATO's help.
Mm-hmm.
So, Russia can force the issue as long as they want, and either they will, truthfully, with significant loss of life and equipment. I mean, it's war, and it's not, it's pretty ugly.
Right.
But they could take Ukraine. They could, right up until NATO steps in. Putin doesn't have to agree to anything. The fact that he even had the phone call and even agreed to the infrastructure thing, I think is a good sign. But at the same time, he's not an idiot. He knows if, so I'm going to stop blowing up power plants, which if I take over Ukraine, I'm going to have to rebuild anyway. Okay, fine. Right.
Sure.
So, I think it's just the fact that there's an open line of communication at this point, and the fact that they are having more talks. I think Secretary Rubio is in Saudi Arabia right now, maybe somewhere in that region, having talks with, Russian representation as well as the Ukrainians. So it's progressing. Do I think it will continue? I think the ceasefire, the limited scope of this ceasefire, I think will continue. But I think it's a crack in the door to for these two sides to decide this before NATO gets involved.
Yeah. And, and you said it before, it's the fact that the line of communication is being opened, and who's it being opened by? President Trump. And I think that's a good feather in the cap right now to be the facilitators of peace, essentially, and I mean, I think it's great. I think, what I think is actually really great. And you can tell me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure Biden certainly never did anything like this, or I don't know if any president before. President Trump released the transcript from the phone call, or was it just like a summary of it? I feel like I read somewhere that he released the transcript of the conversation. I'm sure there were parts that were heavily redacted if he did, for obvious reasons. But again, I've said it so many times over the past, where are we in March, in the past couple months, about this administration's attempt at transparency, so that we really feel like we know what's happening here.
Yeah, I don't know about a released transcript. That I hadn't seen that. And there's always the closed door and then in front of the cameras, right? There's reasons for that. Which again, I hate to go back to the Oval Office and Zelensky thing, but that's a direct result of him not kind of honoring the, we're out in public kind of conduct. And he threw a curveball at President Trump, and that's why that whole thing went south. But there's a couple of other things that have been happening on the fringes of this that matter. And the first is, Putin has said repeatedly over and over again, one of his conditions to end the war is an ironclad agreement that Ukraine will never be part of NATO. I've been saying this since the get-go, right? Now, the NATO Secretary General just came out within the last few days and said, Ukraine will never be a part of NATO. Okay. So, and because he recognizes that a couple of, all Russia wants is they've got a buffer. That's what they want. Ukraine's part of that buffer. It's part of the agreements that have been made both formally and informally since 1989. And he understands that is the linchpin for all of this with Putin. And he said it, this NATO Secretary General, who really doesn't have decision authority over this kind of stuff. It's the voting body of NATO will decide, but he has voiced his opinion and said that they can never become part of NATO. So that weighs a lot. And really, that's all Putin's looking for right now. Now, again, it goes back to what you said about, can you trust him? Can you not? Can you this? Can you that? And, the reality is that you've got to give a little to get a little. And right now, an agreement to, say that Ukraine's not going to be a part of NATO, I think stops this. There are already NATO nations, France being one of them, they're talking about putting NATO troops into Ukraine. which is, we've done NATO UN peacekeeping operations, right? And really what you're doing is creating a buffer, right? Immediately between the Russians and the Ukrainians. You put NATO troops in the middle and it forces Russia to, not attack because you're putting NATO troops at risk.
Yes.
So I think that is a horrible, horrible decision because again, that's an all or nothing proposition. What you can't have is put, say, a French unit in there and the Russians don't know they're French or they don't recognize they're French or they play dumb and and they kill some French soldiers. Then what does NATO do? Like, really, what does NATO do? How do they respond?
Sure.
I mean, you're talking about forcing the issue with World War III by sticking NATO in the middle of this when you haven't exhausted all opportunities for a ceasefire prior to that.
Right.
Like, it's really a dangerous game that Macron and the others are playing with this. And oh, by the way, they're not going to get full NATO support to do it. The Italians have already said no. The Hungarians have already said no. There's a bunch of nations that are they're not willing to stick their troops in the middle of this. So that it becomes dicey, inside of NATO by itself, let alone a lone NATO nation or two doing it without support of the rest of the organization. So even talking about that's a little bit dicey, but I think that's a horrible decision on their part if they haven't exhausted all opportunities. Because, oh, by the way, we're not putting Americans in there.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Trump won't allow it. It just feels like, and I'm sure to some degree I'm wrong, but it just feels like Trump is the only one who's really trying to make peace happen. Everybody else just wants to cause more conflict, and we know why. I mean, it's all about money and power and strength and all of the things, and war equals money for them. I get it on the intellectual level that's the why. War is big business, obviously, but man, oh man, it's crazy. I think it kind of goes back to what you've said probably more than once in the past about, unless you're willing to, and of course Trump said it as well, unless you're willing to go into battle yourself, you better just back up and back off, right? Yeah,
there's a lot of people, Americans included, who are fully in support of all this, but certainly are not volunteering to go themselves and definitely are not signing their kids up for it. So, it put your money where your mouth is or shut up. And so if you've got a teenage boy or girl at home, if you want to look 4 years down the road, and if you're not willing to put them, into the fray, then, keep it to yourself, because that's what you're talking about doing. That's what this is going to escalate to as it stands with what NATO is talking about doing.
Yeah, and if you want to, and that's a great points. And if you, want to keep going in that vein, you can pretty much say to everyone that, you should be praying and asking and working for whatever your capacity is of what you do. If you're just sitting back, watching the news, then I guess it's praying or hoping for you that the ceasefire is more than a partial ceasefire, it's a complete ceasefire. That's what everyone's eyes should be on for the prize. Simple as, it is that simple. And I know all of the machinations of everything is not simple, but the desire should be simple. So we shall see.
Yeah. And it's all conditional, and I get it, but conditions have to be met. It's got to be a worthwhile thing for both sides. And President Trump is the deal maker. That's who he is. We all know that. So, it'll be something that's palatable for Russia. It'll be something that is palatable for Ukraine. Ukraine, truthfully, at this point, should take just about anything that's handed to them.
Absolutely.
I hate to say it.
Yes.
And the rest of Europe should do the same, because otherwise they're going to be engulfed in this, whether they want to or not. It's not going to be pretty. There are so many, and most of Europe and most of NATO has depleted their military so much in the last 30 years that this is not, 1988, the year before the wall fell. It's not. Germany's not capable. France is not. There's very little real military capability left in Europe. So it is going to be a NATO thing, and it's going to be everybody. So they should all be hoping for a ceasefire. Anybody who's talking against a ceasefire is crazy.
Yeah, and to your point, of course, their resources, military and everything are depleted or low. They're also dealing with their own problems, namely being this mass illegal immigration that's going on, and these, animals basically taking over their country. So everybody's got something to focus on in their own house. So how about It's just common sense. Everybody work toward peace, work towards ceasefires, clean your own houses, and then, whatever's next after that. But holy
Yeah,
cow.
there's actually a candidate, not the Labour Party, which is currently in power in England as it stands, or in the UK as it stands, but there is a candidate coming from the opposing party, the Conservative Party, who has stood up and said, "Watch Trump, watch what Trump," and he is going to run to be prime minister under the exact same mindset, the exact, like hard on crime, close the borders, Englishmen, UK residents first, take care of ourselves, take care of our defense, take care of our trade. Like, he is running under the exact same mindset as President Trump. And you're starting to see,
very smart.
Yeah, you're starting to see pockets of this all over the place, across European nations. So, this common sense leadership is kind of rising to the top, and hopefully that common sense is going to keep not just Ukraine safe, end the war, keep them in existence, but all of those Eastern Europe and really the rest of Europe as a whole. Common sense should prevail, and we just take the ceasefire, move on, and everybody just lives another day.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Rolla, I mean, ceasefire is the term of the half hour.
You got to honor it, though. You have to honor the ceasefire.
Yes,
and I know. Yes. Listen, I know that Israel is the one who technically broke the ceasefire. Okay, I understand that. Airstrikes, right? Airstrikes yesterday, but also ground troops today back into Gaza for the first time since the ceasefire. But the question is why? Yeah, and it's because Hamas broke the conditions of the ceasefire, which had to do with returning of prisoners, returning of remains of prisoners, and those kinds of things. Right. So, Israel did what they do. First thing they did was they killed the political leader of Hamas in Gaza. First strike, boom, done. Followed it up with a couple of more airstrikes, and now we're moving troops back in. So, again, President Trump and Secretary Rubio and everybody else, they brokered this deal. Everybody knew the conditions. Israel was behaving as much as they don't want to. They were behaving based on the conditions of the ceasefire. Yeah. And then Hamas violated the conditions of the ceasefire. So, Israel did what they do.
And I'll tell you what, my perspective on that is asking Israel to hold back. It's a big ask. It's a big ask, and if they're going to keep provoking, and it's such an understatement of what they're doing, if they're going to keep breaking these agreements, Israel has a right to defend themselves. They have the right to protect their own. So, to expect otherwise is kind of absurd, really. And you're dealing with people that don't follow the rules, so unless somehow you get them to agree to a true ceasefire, which they've already proven time and again, and I think that's kind of the position here, that sure, we can come to an agreement every day of the week, and every other day of the week, they're going to break it. So,
yeah, I can promise you that, Netanyahu honored the ceasefire because it was an agreement that him and Trump came to, truthfully. Right. And I'm sure Bibi told him, okay, I agree to it. However, and then, at first opportunity when Hamas didn't honor the conditions of the ceasefire, Israel did what they do. But what they're also doing now, and I know that during the ceasefire, I know people don't want to believe this, but Hamas was doing what Hamas does during the ceasefire. They were rearming, they were moving things around, they were repairing, tunnels, they were setting up new bases underneath hospitals and schools and everything else. They were doing all the things that they normally do.
Yes.
They're reestablishing their chain of command after it got decimated, by the Israelis. So they're just resetting themselves. And they were using the ceasefire to do it with. And, they violated the ceasefire. And I can promise you the Israelis are going in there. They went in there today, troops, into Gaza, and they're going to find all evidence of all of those things. They're going to find evidence of new tunnels. They're going to find evidence of new, munitions being moved around and new rocket launching sites and all kinds of stuff. And then you've got the outside interference. You've got the Houthis that fired, that are firing into Gaza or into Israel. Iran's sticking their nose in the middle of this. There's a lot of outside actors getting involved again, or still. But it's because there was a ceasefire. Hamas didn't honor the conditions of the ceasefire.
Yeah. Yeah, simple as that. And of course, the other side will try and tell you differently, but that is the simple fact. And that is, unfortunately, as hopeful as I'd like to be, talking about the previous ceasefire there, as hopeful as I'd like to be, I mean, we're talking about something that is centuries old, right?
Oh, yeah.
That I honestly I don't believe that there ever truly will be a ceasefire. There will be momentary pauses. I will commend President Trump all day long, every day, on every attempt that he makes to have this happen. But, they have proven themselves completely untrustworthy to keep their word. And there's like you were saying, there's so many different factions that have it in for Israel. And I don't know. I mean, if Trump could actually make that happen, that would probably be one of the greatest miracles we'll ever see. I think the most we can hope for is like a longer term time frame of peacefulness, and but of course, Israel's never going to be able to let their guard down ever, nor would they. I mean, I'm stating the obvious, of course.
No, you said it. It's centuries old. I mean, all crusades and this has been going on forever. Like Israel, Jerusalem specifically, has been like at the epicenter of religious conflict for as far back as there's written history, basically. And so, it's not going to. I'm not a believer that the two-state solution is possible, and it's not because of Israel. Israel has proven, if you know anything about Israel itself, the nation, not necessarily about the Israeli government, but the nation, there's plenty of Muslim, Palestinian, Arab businesses that exist, Arabs that Muslims that serve in the IDF, right, in the Israeli Defense Force. There's plenty of that on the Israeli side of things. What doesn't allow for a two-state solution is organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis and the Iranians and everything else. So Israel is and always will be an island against the Arab world. And that's not going to change. So even if Hamas goes away, they will still be under threat of terror attacks by radicalized Muslims as long as there is an Israel, period. You said it. They'll never be able to let their guard down. But I think the attempts at the two-state solution are a wasted effort.
Yeah, I agree. I would love to argue that. There's no argument. It's just a fact, right?
Yeah. What would be optimal is if you could get, and this started at the end of President Trump's last term, if you could get a nation like the Saudis, right, to step in and broker this, right? And or the Kuwaitis or somebody and say, listen, all you Palestinians, pack your stuff, right? Just move. Come on. We'll give you a place. You can, and take care of it that way, because they know the same thing. They understand the same thing. They understand that is never it's never an optimal thing, but with the new generation kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the younger princes, they all understand that Israel is not going away. They have less of a antagonistic attitude towards the Jewish people, and so I think it's more negotiable. But until you get one of them to step in and kind of manage their Arab brothers, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I can't wait to see the pro Hamas comments. It's like they must have like a hashtag alert for any time someone on the internet mentions Gaza or Hamas or anything to do with that region, and they go buck wild in the comment sections. I've blocked quite a few people, and then of course I antagonize by just making a post saying, "See what happens when you say this word." Yeah, so that's what I do.
And now you get, if you form a protest and you're a student on a visa, you get deported.
You're out. Yeah, that we could have thrown that one in here, but we have so many topics. But that is the one, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that whole thing. Just watching the absolute lunacy, hypocrisy, insanity from the left, like that they're putting this guy up as this is your poster child right now. Like once again, you are picking just the worst of the worst to hitch your wagon to, right?
Bad candidate.
Yep. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we could that could be probably a whole topic of its own. But
actually, you know what? I know we were going to hit it kind of last, but let's talk about a bad candidate.
Oh, hey, I like that. Let's do it.
So Gavin Newsom, for those of you that have or have not been paying attention, Gavin Newsom is he is putting himself out there. He has not declared 2028 candidacy, but he if you haven't seen it, he started a podcast.
Mhm.
He's already had a couple of very interesting guests.
Yes.
One of the first ones being Charlie Kirk of all
Who I
people.
adore.
Well, I do
Love
too. I think he's great. I love watching him on college campuses.
Yes.
It's one of the most entertaining things there is.
Mhm.
But you know, he also had Tim Walz on
Yes.
just the other day.
Mhm.
And you know, Walz continued to show how really dumb he is and some of the things that he said. But you know, Charlie Kirk at the end of that, he caught a lot of flack because
From your girl Megyn Kelly too.
yeah, from Megyn. You're right, Megyn Kelly.
Called him right out.
Why give Newsom a platform? Why give him the attention? Why have a discussion with him? And Charlie Kirk's a smart guy, and you know, and he said, "Listen, that's what this is all about. We have to have these discussions." And he came out of that discussion and said that his impression of Gavin Newsom was that no one wants to be president more than Gavin Newsom.
Interesting. I agree with that statement because, and you know, and I think the thing no one should be underestimating Gavin Newsom at all. This was brilliantly strategic to not only create this podcast, but he had this planned all along. From the moment the conception of the podcast came up, he sat down with whoever he sits down with and said, we're going to get the top conservative voices on our show, and I'm going to show what a good, relatable guy I am, because he's looking at the optics of everything. Well, how bad did the Democrats tank and why? Did all the research on that. It's pretty obvious. You shouldn't need to research much. Knows what his national approval ratings look like. He's got decent approval, not horrible approval ratings in California, which blows my mind to no end, but that's besides the point. So he knows he's not presenting well. So he's strategizing, well, how can I appeal to more people? Oh, I know. Let me get some of their people over. So I agree with Charlie, and I agree probably more with Megyn, because you're giving this guy an opportunity to appear likable. I don't think he appeared likable. I don't think in my opinion, it's not possible. But there are people that are going to say, he's got some middle of the road views. You know, he made a strategic, and again, I use the word strategic over and over again, because I think everything he does is 100% calculated, right?
Yeah, so he did make a middle of the road move about a very, very controversial topic, which is girls in sports.
Yes.
And in the interview with Charlie Kirk, he said it is, horribly unfair. He said that. And so, and interesting to see how that happened, or what happened after that, is that James Carville came out. And, I always pay attention to him because he always keeps pretty good tabs on things. He came out and said that you're going to start to see more Democrats move to the middle of the road and move away from the extreme position about, boys and girls sports.
Yes.
And go with the Gavin Newsom, that's and you notice he didn't commit to anything. He didn't commit to changing anything. All he said was, you're right, it's terribly unfair.
Yeah.
But you're going to start to see more of that. Now, Charlie Kirk also said he is incredibly charming in person. I think the best word for Newsom is smarmy.
Smarmy is the perfect word.
He is. He's he's slick back hair and he's a used car salesman kind of feel. I honestly compare him. I think he's the liberal version of Vivek. I think there's a lot of parallels there.
Yeah.
The good smile and the laugh and the hair and the all that. But he go back to a year ago, he took that trip to Mexico with the Clintons.
Yes.
Right? And we talked about this on the show. Is that he was being considered for a run either as the VP, like they were going to kick Kamala off the ticket. They were talking about that. They're talking about replacing Joe, and that Newsom was one of the top candidates. And I swear, and I wrote a blog about this today, a bunch of 2028 presidential predictions, or election predictions. But I think that and I said this when it happened, I think that Clintons took him to Mexico and said, wait till 2028. Not only will you be able to run, but you're going to get the candidacy for the Democratic Party. And I think that all of this, has the podcast, all of this has been resultant of that meeting.
Yes.
So it's all been the strategy from the get-go, is to get him to the middle of the road, like you said, more likable, have him, give him the opportunity to relate, for people to get to know him. And I would tell you that his numbers, his approval rating numbers in California are kind of cooked. The numbers that you need to look at is the shrinking population. And that's the counter to just about everything. California is getting smaller. Like people, there are U-Haul is the best Illinois is the same way, but U-Haul is the best kind of measuring stick, is that
Yeah.
there are more U-Hauls coming out than there are going in. And so people are leaving California at a much higher rate than they're coming in. And that's a direct result of Newsom.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, and I hope as this moves along, as he starts, you know, lining himself up for this nomination, I will be part of the people who will continuously drill home how horrible he is, and I've got the bullet points, and I'm like ready for him. You know, I can go down them right now. I'll go down a few of them at least. Let's see. So his Medicaid program, which they call Medi-Cal, right? Significant budget deficits leading to substantial borrowing. Let's see. And part of the main reason for that is, besides mismanagement in multiple ways, they had to cover illegal immigrants, causing a $3.44 billion shortfall under Gavin Newsom's watch. Let's see what else. Between 2018 and 21, the state spent $9.6 billion on homelessness initiatives, yet their homeless population continued to grow. Education, statewide test scores revealed that approximately 2/3 of California students failed to meet math standards, and over half of the students failed to meet the English standards. I mean, it's crazy, and probably because most of them are illegal children of illegal immigrants, probably, and they're not, you know, it's just not designed for that. Let's see. Of course, crime rates are crazy high, housing crisis, environmental disaster management. Hello. We can talk. I mean, geez, that's probably the most fresh in everyone's mind, right? The wildfires and the mismanagement of all of that, the forest and water resources, everything. And I mean, and this list goes on and on. We're going all the way back to the COVID-19 pandemic, all of that. The $11.4 billion in unemployment benefits to ineligible claimants. So, I mean, they're just like, they've got this, you know, super industrial sized fan, and they're just throwing bags of money in front of it and let it blow around. I mean, that's basically the management style. I
read this one today. My favorite one in all of this, you know, how bad is Newsom kind of thing. They pay more for gas than every state in the union, including Hawaii, and they're ranked 47th in road quality.
Wow.
So, it's not because of the price of, you know, gas. It's not because of the price of oil. It's because of the taxes. That's why the price per gallon is so high in California, is because of the state, local tax, city tax, all the taxes and taxes and taxes that are piled on there. They pay more than anybody else. You know, I don't know what you're paying. You know, the national average is the lowest it's been since, you know, in the last 4 years. Yep. It's down around $3 or pretty close to $3, $3.25. They're paying still. They're paying still like $4.60, I think, in California, and they're ranked 47th in road quality. So, I mean, mismanagement, you said it. They're just, money is just, they're using it to light forest fires. I don't know, but they're using it for kindling.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, if anybody wants to look at Gavin Newsom, they should be looking at him as a cautionary tale in what he's done to his state, because it's what he'll do to this country. So I don't care how many conservative pundits he has on and how likable he appears. He's going to start getting more casual too. He's going to, you know, unbutton more, look a little more rugged looking, because they're doing all of the things that you do when you're, you know, vying for a run at the presidency. Yep. And it's all going to be calculated, orchestrated, strategized, and maneuvered to appeal to as many people as possible. And so he's going to be talking, you know, not that he doesn't already, and that they almost don't already. He's going to be talking out of both sides of his mouth. He's going to be telling this group what they want to hear, and he's going to tell this group what they want to hear. And he is going to do the same damn thing he's done to California to this country. So don't get swayed. And I think we're all too smart to do that. But, you know, there are obviously people who are in the middle, who have remained in the middle and are willing to go either way to whoever appeals to them. That's who he's aiming for, you know.
He's going to be he's going to be the candidate, though. Mark my words.
I think you're right.
Yep. He's and I'm gonna go way out on a limb, and I'm gonna tell you, Newsom Whitmer 2028.
Ooh, wow.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. I could see it. I could see that.
It can't have two white guys on there.
No,
so
definitely not.
It's Biden Harris all over again. It's two poor candidates, underqualified, you know, career politician types. It's the exact same ticket, just two different names. So, but you heard it here first.
Yeah.
Newsom Whitmer 2028. That's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, I don't know if they're just smoke screens, I'm sure you've heard it too, but, I hear them throw out Kamala Harris and AOC, that Jasmine Crockett, they even threw her name out there. I'm like, are you like, now you're just trying to rile people up and get them angry. So they're not paying too much attention to what's going on over there.
Yeah.
So
part of what I talked about in that blog, you guys can go read it at my website. But it's, you're going to see a transition in the Dems. So the old guard, Schumer, Pelosi, all of them are going to be gone. You are going to start to see AOC, Crockett, that younger group is going to take more of a leadership role, which is not going to be a good thing. They're going to become more extreme. They're going to become more polarizing. But Newsom is going to get the candidacy by default. He's the only viable candidate they have. It's still not going to bode well for them, but that's right. My guess at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing, and we've talked about this at various times about the Democrats, and even though they appear to be, and for all intents and purposes, they are truly imploding. They're having a massive identity crisis. They are truly a mess. But I personally, and I know you wouldn't either, I will never underestimate them because they have always played the long game. And that's what they're doing right now. They're taking their hits and they are strategizing. There's that word again. They are strategizing their next big move, what they're going to do. So just because they're a mess right now, don't discount them. Don't undermine them because they're scary people. They just are.
Yeah. I think the GOP is doing the same thing, though. I think got Trump bans for 4. Yeah. I think you're going to see Vance Rubio for 8. For the next 2. Like that's.
I would love that.
And then Rubio, who will only be 64 12 years from now, will be the next presidential candidate. There's I think a long-term trajectory strategy on the GOP side too, and I think they're breeding it now, which I think is good. So we'll see how it plays out. I know that's a long way out, but Gavin Newsom's taking steps, so we all got to pay attention.
Yes, do not take your eyes off that smarmy man. Yeah. Speaking of smarmy, we can move right into this. Smarmy is actually even too nice of a word. Sleazy, trashy, garbage, filthy, scumbag.
31 total agents on 2 protective details. Yeah, that's what they were getting. Hunter had 18. His sister had 13. And sister, ex-wife, whatever she is, I don't even know.
Yeah,
it's so inbred. Right. I don't even pay attention. But the Biden kids who had Secret Service protection have lost it. President Trump has revoked it. They were, just as an example, traveling to South Africa.
Yes,
which we have said
right now. They're there right now, aren't they? Yeah.
We've said as a nation, we're not dealing with South Africa anymore, right? There is some horrific, crap in the, and people will talk about apartheid. What you've got is reverse apartheid going on right now. You have white farmers being murdered by the dozens, across South Africa. And that's where the Biden kids decided to go on vacation.
Yeah.
2 protective details, 31 total agents at a minimum. Not to mention the transportation and everything else that goes along with it.
Right.
It's not like they're flying commercial.
No.
All the support structure that goes with that, all gone. President Trump said no more, and he shut it off.
Good. Yeah. And of course, the left is screaming and crying. They think that's terrible. Oh, you're going to, they're unsafe. It's terrible. You're going to leave them unprotected. Nobody cares enough about them. They're not under the threat of assassination or murder. Nobody cares. Like this has never been a credible issue for them at all. So it's just a flat no.
Yeah, listen.
And by the way, hire your own security.
Exactly.
Right? Like if you feel scared, if I felt scared for my life, not only do I have to protect myself, if I felt that scared, I would have to hire out of my pocket. Nobody's going to pay that for me. So yeah, I don't have any sympathy there whatsoever. Yeah, it should be based on security needs, period, not political titles, right?
Yeah, political kids, presidential kids, have gotten Secret Service protection for various reasons, mostly to protect them from kidnapping, which would allow people to, influence a president or former president, right?
Right.
Joe Biden's, that man's on it. That he holds nothing. Like you couldn't get anything out of him if you wanted to. National secrets, security, whatever. 1, he doesn't remember anything. 2, he's not long for this world. So, and oh, by the way, they have plenty of money. We know that. So
plenty of money.
Yeah, pulling
Mhm.
Secret Service protection for the Biden kids was the right thing to do. Now, people would ask who else has it, why do they have it? I'm willing to bet that the Obama kids have it,
Right.
and they should,
Mhm.
right? I
Yep.
think that Chelsea Clinton has
Mhm.
Secret Service protection to an extent, even if it's a one or two, as she should.
Mhm.
Obviously the Trump kids in some form or fashion. I don't think all the Trump kids do. I think they pay out of pocket for security for the most
Mhm.
part. But I know that some of the youngins, have got some coverage, as they should. He's a sitting president.
Right.
But like the Biden kids, no
No.
way.
No.
I don't even think the Bush girls have it anymore. Like dad's been out of office for too long.
Yeah.
There's been, and I said Chelsea Clinton, it's not because of Bill. It is because of Hillary at this point. Like
Right.
she is more, her being the sex state during the Obama administration, much more relevant than her husband.
Yeah.
As far as national security goes. So, the Bush girls are probably irrelevant at this point. George, doesn't really have anything. He doesn't have anything to carry. So, but yeah, this was a waste of taxpayer dollars protecting Hunter, and the Biden kids. So I'm glad he pulled it. I know, like you said, there's people that are, griping and complaining, and I really, really don't care. They have
I don't care. Like I don't even care enough to debate it with them. Like if they were like, don't you think it's terrible that no. Yeah, I mean, be mad if you want. You could be mad, but it's not even. Don't care at all.
Nope.
Oh my goodness. Oh, so here's something that as soon as I saw, I thought of you. This didn't turn out to be as exciting as I thought it was going to be for you. Is that the case, Clay?
Well, so two things. One, I was really, really afraid this was going to turn into the Epstein Files Part 2. I really, when the president said that, and he's like, "Oh, it's all coming out tomorrow," I was like, "No." And they did it. They dropped it, and they dropped 80,000 pages. And as far as I know, as far as I understand, it is all unredacted. So all of the information is in there. Now, we don't know what's not in there, right? That's the thing. But as far as anybody can tell right now, it's all there. It's 80,000 pages. It's, a couple 6,000 documents or whatever it is. And it's out there. It's going to take people a while to dig through it. And that's what's going on now. And oh, by the way, not just read through it, but also find holes and gaps and seams and inconsistencies. And essentially what you're going to have to do is a whole nother investigation of the investigation to really understand. There are a couple of interesting tidbits in there already. There was a Mr. Underhill who was an agent, did some black bag stuff for the United States in the early days of the CIA post World War II, was really involved in that whole world of really deep, dark, evil ops, in the anti-Soviet, anti-Russia post World War II era. He ran from Washington, D.C. the day after the assassination. Ran to friends in New Jersey, and 6 months later was found dead of suicide, bullet behind the ear assassination style. Okay. And he had a ton of connections within the CIA, within the world, that dark, deep, dark world. So there's a memo in there about Underhill and about him saying that this was a CIA operation or the CIA had involvement or something to that effect. That is one of the number one things that's come out. The other one is
which has been suspected. I mean, that's what people have been flat out saying for years, right? So not a huge surprise on that. What else?
The other one that's interesting, because it really doesn't have to do with the initial investigation, is there's a document in there from 1994 that is a quote from JFK Jr. that he wrote in a memo or wrote in a letter to Senator Joe Biden saying, "I know you're a traitor to the United States." So the first time I saw that document, I'm like, this is AI, it's garbage, it's bullshit. Why would it even be in here? And I can't explain the why is it in the file. That I don't know, but I've seen it in enough places now in reliable sources that it has been vetted as part of what was released. But that was 5 years before he died in that very weird plane, flying incident, JFK Jr. But he made an accusation against Senator Joe Biden that he was a traitor to the United States. So that has gained a ton of attention in the midst of all this. But it's going to take folks a while. It's a lot of documentation. It's a lot of information. There is no hard evidence anymore. That's the other thing that people need to understand. The magic bullet is gone. Kennedy is the body's gone. Like the car is gone. It's all gone. So all you're going to be able to look at is documentation, and those kind of things. There was one other piece in there that is a little interesting, is that supposedly Jack Ruby met with Oswald within 2 weeks before the assassination.
I did see that one. I did see that. Yeah.
So
interesting.
again, people, it's puzzle pieces
Yeah,
right
that's
now.
a lot. Yeah. 80,000 pages. I'm sure, if anyone were to, and I'm sure people are doing this, and don't come for me, guys, that I'm bringing AI into this in a positive way, because everybody gets mad anytime you want to use AI for something, but it's a great resource, a great tool for somebody to put that information in there and have it do the work for you. I don't know if it can handle a document of that size. You'd probably have to like piecemeal it. And I'm sure people are doing exactly that, telling it what to look for and how to kind of just take out that information and bullet point it or something and get all the relevant stuff out of it. So, hopefully, I'm actually saying hopefully somebody is doing that and we can get it a little bit faster, because it is fascinating to say the least.
Exactly the same thing. I was like, this is what we want AI to do. Like, take the 80,000 pages, put it in the AI machine, let it read it, download it, analyze it, put it all together, and then spit out the answer that says this is the most likely based on the documents that are put in there.
Right.
I thought exactly the same thing. This is the perfect application, in my opinion, of AI. I really do agree with
it. Truly is. I mean, there's certainly a lot of really good, useful applications for it. It's just, just like everything else in this life, people ruin everything. They just do. It's something going back to that, of course. I saw, and I don't even know why this came up in my TikTok feed, but it did. And I thought of you again. Anything that comes to JFK, I think of you, because I know that's a strong interest of yours. And you'll probably know the guy's name, the Secret Service agent who jumped onto the car.
Just passed away.
I watched an old interview with him.
You were on the fender of the Secret Service car, right behind President Kennedy's car. At the first shot, you ran forward and jumped on the back of the president's car in less than 2 seconds, pulling Mrs. Kennedy down into her seat, protecting her. But first of all, she was out in the trunk of that car.
She was out of the back seat of that car, not out of the trunk of that car.
Well, she had climbed out of the back and she was on the way back, right?
And because of the fact that her husband's head had been shot off and gone off to the street.
She wasn't trying to climb out of the car.
No. She was simply trying to reach that head, part of the head.
To bring it back.
That's the only thing.
In the 12 years since that assassination, undoubtedly you have thought and thought and thought again about it. And studied it. Do you have any reason to believe that there was more than one gun, more than one assassin? Was Lee Harvey Oswald alone, or were there others with him?
There were only 3 shots. And it was one gun, 3 shots.
You're satisfied Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone?
Completely.
Was there anything that the Secret Service or that Clint Hill could have done to keep that from happening?
Clint Hill, yes.
Clint Hill, yes? What do you mean?
If he had reacted about 0.5 of a second faster, or maybe a second faster, I wouldn't be here today.
You mean you would have gotten there and you would have taken the shot?
The 3rd shot, yes, sir.
And that would have been all right with you?
That would have been fine with me.
But you couldn't. You got there in less than 2 seconds, Clint. You couldn't have gotten there. You surely don't have any sense of guilt about that.
Yes, I certainly do. I have a great deal of guilt about that. Had I turned in a different direction, I'd have made it. It's my fault.
Oh. No one has ever suggested that for an instant. All that you did was show great bravery and great presence of mind. What was on the citation that was given you for your work on November 22nd, 1963? Extraordinary courage and heroic effort in the face of maximum danger?
Mike, I don't care about that. if I had reacted just a little bit quicker, and I could have, I guess. I'll live with that to my grave.
You were on the fender of the Secret Service car, right behind President Kennedy's car.
I was crying within seconds of watching him because it is so heartbreaking. That man was so traumatized by what he viewed as his failure, his failing to protect him. Have you seen that?
I have. I've seen that, and I know, like, there was a Clint Eastwood movie years ago where he was an elderly Secret Service agent, aging, and he was essentially that guy, but was still in the Secret Service and eventually got back on the presidential detail and some other things. It was actually a good movie. I think it was called In the Line of Fire. Go back and take a look at it. But he was that guy, and he did have that raging guilt that he had screwed up and the president died on his watch. And so yes, the story of that agent, and his name escapes me at the moment, but I know who you're talking about. He was one of the guys riding on the back of the car, and he was the one who dove on the trunk, and he was the one who, but he was riddled with guilt for the rest of his life. I can't even imagine, shouldering that. And I think that no amount of therapy, I think that nothing is rectifying that and gave that man any, kind of, respite before he passed away. I think he carried that guilt till the day he died, which is awful. But I mean, he was literally the guy, the closest proximity to the whole thing. So
heartbreaking.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, guys. Now that I just made everybody feel so sad, we're going to bring it back around. We're bringing it back around. We're ending on such an amazing moment. We have it, the moment's right here. Let's watch it together.
There on your screen, continuing to monitor progress of the Dragon spacecraft. And we're going to stand by for splashdown, located in the Gulf of America, off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida.
And splashdown. Crew 9 back on Earth.
Wow, that is so cool. So cool. So to state the obvious, I'm sure everybody knows these are the two astronauts, Butch, when you're at, scroll down to the wrong part on my here, but Butch and Sonny, and I'm sorry, I'm not grabbing their last names here. I think it's Williams. Yeah, Sonny Williams and Butch, where's his name? Wilmore. There we go. They were stranded by the Biden administration in space for 9 months. I think their mission was probably like maybe a month long, maybe a few
I don't
weeks
even
long.
think it was that long.
Not even that long? Okay.
It was shorter than that. Yeah.
Really? Okay. So we're going with 9 months then. So 9 months, they were stranded. Elon Musk offered the Biden administration to go and get them. He said, I can do it. Want me to do it? I'm happy to. And they said, nah, we're good. So that was that. So they were stranded there for an unbelievable length of time. And Elon got the go ahead. His SpaceX Dragon went right up there, snatched him up, brought him home. And I think they have like probably a really long recovery, right? After this, because there's so much that goes on to your with your body. Like I was reading little bits of this and I was actually so horrified for them on their behalf. But I'm sure anything is better than still being stranded up there indefinitely, just to be able to be home and with your family and touch grass, to feel air. Oh, all the things. I cried watching. What a surprise. I cried. Yeah. I cried watching that too. So great. Did you see the dolphins?
I did. The dolphins were great. So cool. Just a nice little touch, and of course, so she actually set a record, most hours on spacewalk by a female astronaut ever. And really only because she was up there for so long. So she spent, I think it's 62 and a half hours outside the spacecraft, outside the space station, which is the most by any female, which is awesome. But, of course, in the immediacy after they, splashed down, a lot of hate. There's a lot of conspiracy theorists, She came out, and before they put her in front of a camera, and they did it with him too. They cleaned her up. Yeah. Right. Of course. They brushed out her hair. They gave her a little bit of darker makeup. listen, when you live under conditions like that, you're going to lose a lot of color. You're going to look very gaunt because the food is not filling. It's nutritious, but not filling, right? So they gave him a little bit of makeup touch up before they put him in front of a camera. And people are like, it's total bogus. Like, she's been in space for 9 months. Why does she have a tan and her hair is yes, they did.
It's called makeup. It's called like, can you give the woman give her a break? Can she look decent? Like, do you want her still? What do you want her to do? Come out on the interview with her hair still standing straight up and everything? Like, stop being mean. Jeez. Yes.
And then there's the other ones. You know, I've had it, and again, I'm taking from you. I haven't. But I've had some detractors like, well, Musk got tasked in August by Biden. First of all, he didn't get tasked. He did volunteer. And you know, and then he said he got tasked to have it done by February. So Trump doesn't get any credit for this. Okay. So first of all, again, he doesn't get tasked.
Right.
He got asked. He volunteered.
Yes. He's a private citizen. So
and oh, by the way, they're like, well, he was a month behind schedule. Like, okay, they were going to space.
Right.
You know, like, they were a month behind schedule, maybe. Yeah. If
I'm sorry, he was trying to make sure it was safe. Listen,
it's the same. These are the same people who, you know, President Biden blamed President Trump for 4 years for everything that went wrong. He took credit for 4 years for everything that went right. Right. Even the things that were, you know, done by President Trump that carried over into the Biden administration. Obama blamed Bush for 8 years. Right. Yes. And took credit for, you know what I mean? And listen, and Bush blamed Clinton for a lot of crap for 8 years. This is the way that these things work. So if you want to say President Trump doesn't get any credit for this, fine. Okay. I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong. I think, you know, he's the guy that's in the chair right now. He made the decision to go. He gave Elon the thumbs up. Right. And so he gets the credit. That's what happens. When you're the guy in charge and it happens under your watch, you get the credit. Period.
You get the credit.
Right. Whether you like it or not. Right. So, but Elon Musk is the hero in this. You know, he did a real life space rescue, and people just want to hate. And I feel sorry for everybody who does, because, you know, you're just leading a miserable life. You really are. Yeah.
You're a sad sack of human flesh. Just absolutely pathetic and sad. And I've seen the meme floating around. I probably already shared it as well. That, you know, just basically saying, you know, you got people out here torching and blowing up and vandalizing Teslas. Meanwhile, Elon Musk is saving people in space. You loser morons. I just added that last part in. That wasn't in the meme. I'm just adding that in, just a little personal interjection there. But yeah, you absolute losers. Like, this guy is just sending rocket ships into space and rescuing stranded astronauts, and you're kicking cars and keying them and blowing them up. Losers. Yeah. Absolute losers.
Can't do it. Yeah, I posted the other day, and I said that anybody right now who is vandalizing Tesla vehicle, Tesla charging station, Tesla dealerships, should be charged with domestic terrorism.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, Pam Bondi agrees with me.
Yes. Yeah, she does.
You know, and I've had people, you know, please define terrorism. Okay. Well, I've been doing that for the last, 20 years of my life.
Yeah.
No problem. You know, I had people call it silly. I had people call it irrational. But you know, that the violence and the hate and the vitriol and everything that is coming out of this is reflexive. It's irrational, but that's where people are at right now. And it's you know, it's really, we're in a sad state of affairs right now.
Oh, we are. Yeah. It's so sad. And all I want to see from that is very, very swift action and very, very severe, the most severe penalties that can be enforced by law and by the courts on these people. And if it's a slap on the wrist, you better go change that law right now and make it domestic terrorism, because it is. It absolutely is. Particularly, you know, maybe not the keying the car. I mean, I'm going with it. Yeah, make it that. But the blowing up of you know, dealerships and whatnot. That's domestic terrorism. End of story. You know.
Yep, I agree. Listen, the astronauts are home, and we
astronauts are home.
Trying to end it on a happy note, and the astronauts are home, and good for them to be back on terra firma. It's always a great occasion for that, and this one I think was extra special. So we're just going to go with that one and celebrate. Oh, by the way, I forgot to do this top of the show. Right, we recorded this 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time Wednesday.
Yes.
4:30 Eastern Time Wednesday. All right. So, you know, you'll be seeing this Thursday night. Elsa and I have made a collective decision that we are not going to record next week. We are sorry. We apologize up front. You will get this show this week. We are going to take a break next week. We've been going for a pretty long time without missing a show, and Elsa's going to see her grandbabies, and there's lots going on. So we're both going to take a breather for a week. So another great show. We got through all 6.
We did it. We actually even kind of threw in a couple little things in there too, wove them in. So yay us. I hope you guys enjoyed. We always enjoy doing this and engaging with you guys in the comments section. So please jump in and tell us your thoughts. And even if you disagree, we're okay with that. We're big boys and big girls. We can handle it. And we will see you not next week, but the following week. So take care, guys. And Clay, go ahead, close them right out.
Hey, like Elsa said, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks, everybody, for participating. We love doing this. We love doing it with you and doing it for you. So, as always, for me, keep moving, keep shooting.
Combat veteran Terry Davis left a life of violence for the quiet Midwest prairie, but a terror threat pulls him back into action. In Tampa, he makes allies and enemies as the danger unfolds. Relying on his combat-honed skills, Terry faces a threat far bigger than he imagined, unsure of who to trust. One thing is certain: to survive, he must keep moving, keep shooting.
Welcome to Chance, the series you'll fall in love with. Picture a small town so warm and inviting, you'll wish it were real. That's Chance, a place where laughter echoes through quiet streets, and every neighbor feels like family. Elsa Kurt's 6-book series captures the soul of small-town life. Follow the lives of 5 families as they weather life's highs and lows, love blossoming, friendships forming, hearts breaking, and healing in unexpected ways. These stories will wrap you in comfort, spark joy, and tug at your heartstrings. Each page feels like a heartfelt embrace. Discover Chance today. Find the series and all of Elsa Kurt's books on Amazon and elsakurt.com.